And we are live. Hi, Amber. And so sorry to everyone for the 10-minute delay. Uh, Technical glitches that stopped us from starting on time. But without wasting any further time, hi, Amber. Thank you so much for joining us with this session. And everyone who's joined us would love to know if you are able to hear us properly, see us properly. Please reply with a thumbs up in the chat. And meanwhile, Amber would love to introduce you to our audience here. So everyone meet Amber. She's the senior director of global demand generation at Reachdesk. Yeah, they're kind of a big deal in the demand gen world, which is what we're gonna cover today. And throughout her career, Amber has been the big brain behind several impactful campaigns and marketing strategies for companies such as Plugpar and Degreed, Planview Inc., and more. So, and she's also a board member at Peak Community, and she's an XP winner and a two-time recipient of ABM-IE. So Amber's here to spill the beans on how to make your content work harder for your brand. Amber, over to you. Would love to know your journey, how you've come into this space, how the space has evolved. Just a brief intro.
How I've come into the marketing space and just kind of my journey.
Yeah.
Okay, well, like a lot of marketers out there, I was an accidental marketer. I found my way into marketing actually through doing a survey on our website experience, and I went above and beyond basically in answering the questions in details, and it led me to my first marketing opportunity. Fast forward many years later, I was introduced to ABM. And I really hung my hat on that for a long time, and was very passionate about the strategy. And it allowed me to really understand the business cross-functionally and understand the inner workings of teams. It forced you to question the types of measurements, attributions, and kind of setups of general marketing. And it's kind of led me into the role that I am today, which is the demand gen and owner of account-based strategy. After really seeing how challenging it was for demand gen and ABM to work in silos, I wanted to fix that kind of struggle and issue. And I thought, in order to fix it, I must own it. So there we are.
Love the accidental marketer line, but I guess it all fell into place eventually. So, Amber, could you also give a brief introduction of Reachdesk and what are you currently doing over there?
Well, Reachdesk as a product and offering is for those of you that don't know, is a direct mail and gifting platform that helps support really opening up connections and opportunities throughout every stage of the buying cycle. And at Reachdesk, we're a big fan of drinking our own Kool-Aid, as they say. And so, of course, our own product is very well woven into everything that we do. And we work with a lot of different, marketers and salespeople, and we hear the echoing of the pain points that they face, the same kinds of pain points that we face. So I'd say that, we're very involved in kind of solving the same kinds of problems that our customers face and ensuring that we are living the example of, leveraging our product in conjunction with the other tools out there and creating what we call an all-bound engagement strategy. And so that's really just working cross-functionally with the go-to-market teams. And it's ensuring that you're looking across all channels and tactics and elevating them to the best way for impact and efficiency for the business. So I'd say that that's a lot of what we're doing, in addition to just growing and maturing as a business.
Got it. So, for the folks who are not aware of exactly what demand generation is or how is it different from lead generation, here's a small insight. According to HubSpot, 91% of marketers say that lead generation is their most important goal, and content marketing is 62% more effective at generating leads than any other outbound marketing. So yeah, demand gen is a pretty big deal out there. And moving ahead to the next question, Amber, can you also talk about the experience that you've had in building growth for your company, and how has the journey been? Like you, I think you started off as a growth marketer as well, and then you also look after account-based marketing and account-based experiences. So, what would you say are some key components of a successful demand generation strategy from planning to execution?
Well, I'd say that I think when it comes to demand generation, like first and foremost, it's important to understand what that means and to not, try and force a circle into a square, as they say, and to understand that demand generation does not necessarily equal inbound versus outbound, or it does not mean just generating leads. It is in definition creating demand for the business. And in that regard, it can be defined in several different types of strategies. So I think the foundational necessities are to understand, what demand gen means and what does it mean to your business, and what do you need to create, what type of demand you need to create, and what are the pain points that you need to solve for across your existing strategy, but perhaps what is missing from your strategy. And then also to not look at demand gen as a separate entity from the strategies like account-based marketing. I think that really marketing works best when it can work in conjunction with strategies, and you look across the funnel and you see demand generation is the part that's creating the journey and then connecting it through the rest of the funnel. There's a lot of different, I can go on for like the entire session and talk about it, so I won't continue to do so. But I think that it's important to have those things in place and to also really, really focus on the leading indicators, or as a lot of ABMers say, like the metrics that matter. Finding out what the leading indicators are for your business and understand what those success benchmarks are, and know exactly when you need to make a change or shift strategies if something isn't working. So for a demand generation strategy, if you're focused on bringing in demos, then you can ask yourself questions like how many page visits are we getting to the demo request page? And what is the conversion on that page? And then from the demo request entry point, what are the different conversions that those people go through? So there's just a lot of different things to consider in addition to the types of channels that you are leveraging and understanding how to optimize your spend for cost per opportunity and ROI. And also, I'll end it with this, making sure that the business also understands that you might not have the greatest ROI on a channel like maybe LinkedIn, but that's because you're creating demand through that channel. You're not actually seeking a lot of conversions through that channel. So making that really clear and maybe thinking about measuring that from a brand perspective and doing the impacts based on subsource opportunities or influence to those channels.
Right. Thank you so much for the detailed insight. And I want to focus more on the content bit in the buyer journey now. So, how can businesses ensure that their content aligns with the various stages of the buyer's journey, from awareness to conversion?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I've always kind of said that like not all buyer journeys are created equally, and that it's important to follow some sort of I don't want to say template, but it's important to follow kind of some structures that I'll get into in a second. But but also understand that sometimes somebody who is at the very beginning of their journey might actually engage in content that's later funnel. It's just, you just cannot predict what somebody wants to consume. But that being said, kind of setting up the structure of sorts is like, from unaware, the first thing that you want to do is to ensure that your audience is aware of the problem. If they're in the unaware phase, then they might not know who you are, but they also might not know they have a problem. So first and foremost is kind of addressing that there's a problem out there. And while you're doing that, you're creating brand recognition, just very subtly. And then when you move into the awareness phase, you're educating on solving the problem, the kinds of tactics and the strategies that help resolve the pain for that person. And then moving beyond that is finally the point where you talk about general solutions that solve that problem. For example, with Reachdesk, we would talk about using gifting as a solution to the pain points of not reaching the right prospects, getting ghosted, that kinds of thing. And then finally, once you get past the solutions, then you go into the specifics of the product and, start addressing what your product specifically can provide to the buyer and what they can expect from your product.
Got it. And when you talk about content's role in the journey, and it has gained significant importance over the years, there's also a point that a lot of marketers mention, that is personalization. So how do you think personalization of content has evolved over the years, and how important is it currently to create content that's personalized and not generic? Plus, in this age of AI where generic content is now flooded all over the internet, how do you ensure that the content is high quality, personalized, and how have you at Reachdesk incorporated this?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that when it comes to personalization, I think it's important to define it in maybe two different kind of points. It's personalized if it hits a chord within your buyer on the kinds of pains that they feel, the kind of goals that they try to achieve. And then there's personalization on the level of who they are as a human being, specifically that person. I think that, personalization is required for the experience, but I don't think we need to just apply the idea that every single piece of content has to be personalized to this person and know exactly, what their favorite color is or anything like that. I think there needs to be levels and layers of personalization. And so, because scaling is really hard and you can't necessarily create a single ebook or guide for every single prospect you have. So you have to think about, how can I personalize this to a certain industry, to a certain persona and their specific pain points. And so you have to understand what those pain points are. You have to understand what it is that they're struggling with. And so that's that kind of personalization. And I think it's a big focus in what we do on a regular basis. And then there's the kind of human personalization. That's kind of, making that very unique connection between one specific individual. And so that I do really feel like it impacts a little bit deeper when it comes from your sales experience and things like gifting. So these types of things are the human to human connection. And I think that they hit a little bit deeper. So obviously at Reachdesk, we are leveraging our own solution to create personalized experiences to the prospects through different gifts. A great example is that if someone is sending a sales email and they get an out of office reply, then they generally send them something like an Uber Eats gift card saying, your fridge might be empty after you get back from PTO. I mean, just really, really simple things. Sunscreen, you might be, sunscreen from your vacation, or some kind of after vacation care kit. Like, there are so many different ways to just bring in a level of personalization that us as humans we're like intrinsically wired to feel connected when somebody does something personal. So it does not have to be, like I said, like the customized ebook of 30 pages for your prospect. You have to kind of decide which areas and places that you bring in personalization. And I've, practiced that quite a bit across the different strategies and businesses I've worked at, due to scaling challenges, where we'll have personalized industry-specific campaigns. We layer in some personalization with our marketing. And then I put the expectation on the sales team. This is where you need to personalize at this level.
I love the anecdote about sending a care package to someone who's just returned from the PTO, or sending sunscreen. I think it's the small things that matter a lot. While you mentioned a lot about personalization, with this insight that you shared about finding those small nuances, how do you go about with that? How do you find that information? Like, I know a lot is out there about the person whom you are talking to, but still, how do you go about what might be right, and where do you draw the line as well? Wouldn't it be too personalized in some cases?
Oh yeah, I 100% think there is too personalized. First and foremost, I do not think that using someone's intent should then say, hey, I saw you on our website reading XYZ. That is not the way to go. It is, take that piece of information, use it to fuel your messaging. This is what they're interested in, therefore use that as a trap. Then there's the, creepy, I know your address, or I know, where you're, just stuff you don't want people to know. I think that, people kind of, people at Reachdesk in particular, they know what they're comfortable with their own personal information, for example. So they're respectful of those types of things. And I mean, quite frankly, people do share a lot of personal things these days on LinkedIn. So there's enough kind of stuff that's, just around. Someone doesn't have to share that they celebrated, a marriage or an anniversary or anything, because there's enough people out there that are doing things like this, speaking, right? So someone on my LinkedIn is going to see that I recently was on a LinkedIn Live with Pepper Content and might say, hey, I caught you on, the live webinar. I loved what you had to say about how important content is to the buyer journey. That's something that, people are doing things across LinkedIn that you can leverage. In addition to, of course, there's an entire software dedicated to user gems that is dedicated to job changes. We are just watching, these job changes and checking on prospects on LinkedIn. But if somebody has a job change or promotion, like that's a really good thing to send them a bottle of champagne to celebrate, where it's not too personal. So I think that the rule of thumb is use your judgment and ask yourself if you would want somebody to know this. Because at the end of the day, we're selling software. So let's keep it, respectful.
That's a great insight. I want to give a shout out to all marketers out there, including you, Amber, for that time we spend as marketers into researching about our customers, finding those details and getting things right. Okay, so I want to move on to budgeting now. So we've talked about creating high quality content, creating personalized content, creating content for the entire buyer journey, but it surely comes at a cost. Creating high quality content itself comes at a good cost. What are your thoughts on budgeting when it comes to demand generation? How do you think companies should allocate those budgets?
Yeah, well, I think that it's a tough question to answer. I had kind of thought about this, this question, and probably everyone that's on this live has been affected by budget changes over the last year plus. So it might look different than what it's looked like before. What I can say that, is looking at across direct mail, paid campaigns, content, content support, and tools, that ours is about 50% that's paid specifically. And that number looked different before. It would have been a little bit less than 50%. So really, the numbers are a little bit skewed based on removals of things. However, the amount that we spend on paid hasn't shifted, because we see that as it's the car that gets us to the destination of opportunity land.
Right. Yeah, I guess we've all seen those budget cuts and news around budgets getting shorter for teams. But I guess, yeah, there's still upside, and hopefully we'll all recover from that. Um, Also, so I want to move towards some content related conversations again. How do you think about uh, so there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to creating content for demand generation, and there are also a lot of myths out there. That there's one myth that you need to create a lot of content and keep creating it, whereas a lot of content can still be repurposed. So, what are your thoughts around these myths and, in general, some misconceptions that you must have also experienced throughout your journey as a demand gen person?
Yeah, well, I'd say you read my mind around the thoughts and conceptions about it, because I could tell you that if you asked me, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, what I thought about how much content you needed and all that, I would have assumed that you would have wanted a lot of content, because I was consuming content. But what I didn't know then that I do now is a lot of that content was repurposed content. And after reading a book that I can't exactly say the title, but about content marketing, an expletive in it, by Randy Frisch, I actually learned that a lot of content goes to waste and it's not utilized. There's an overproduction of content. It doesn't get utilized. I think that what not a lot of people maybe are aware of is that there is so much you can do in a single asset. You can create 5 different pieces of content from it. From this conversation between you and I alone, you can create 5 different pieces of content. You can create 5 video clips alone, and then a supporting blog for each of them. So then you have 10 different pieces of content from 5 clips. And then, an ebook here. A lot of what's happening with content and the trends in content are to repurpose and to do media focused. So a lot of video, bite-sized pieces. Edutainment is like the cool word that is being used now. And that goes to, the trend is driven by the consumer behavior and how we consume, right? So TikTok has changed the world.
About creating content out of this session, I want to mention that is happening as we speak. We have a team in the back end noting down the important quotes, noting down the timestamps, and we're gonna repurpose this as well in the coming days. But yeah, great insight, Amber. um so moving on to I want to talk about some specific examples.
Mhm.
So could you share a specific example where a unique content strategy had a significant impact on demand generation for Reachdesk, and what lessons can other businesses learn from it?
I would say the example that I'd like to share is don't underestimate the power of a nurture strategy. I feel like nurtures, and somebody please shout if they disagree or have a different experience. But in my experience, nurture strategies felt very old school for a while. And it wasn't something that we were doing when I started at Reachdesk. but it was something that we found that we were in dire need of based on the need to educate, our buyers and to be, to be thought leaders and to, to sell a marketing tool to marketers as marketers, is important that we knew what we were talking about. So, part of that was to do a nurture strategy to ensure that we were providing value of what's going on in the marketplace. What are the different things that people are doing, companies are doing? What are we seeing that's working, that's not working, and just talking about it. There's a ton of companies out there doing incredible things like this in the thought leadership space, that have, been super inspirational and have informed a lot of things that I'm sure thousands of marketers are doing and trying every day. But to go back to, a nurture was put in place, and it was in support of obviously trying to drive demand for the business, but for us specifically, it was in support of our ABM strategy and supporting the demand creation, but the outbound motion of the business. See how I mentioned earlier that demand gen doesn't have to sit over here, right? We saw really great and immediate impacts with creating QA'd accounts through the nurture strategy. So we were educating our buyers with this content. We were allowing for them to engage when they were ready. And then we had a signal that said, here are sales.
Got it. I also wanted to understand what are some other brands that you admire in the same space, in the B2B SaaS space, who are doing demand generation really well. If you could pick a couple of names.
Yeah. So Chili Piper is we're best friends in the partner world, but also just genuinely amazing. They have the Sauce newsletter, they do a podcast, and they create a lot of different pieces. So they're awesome in that regard. Lavender is another one. Hockey Stack, Apollo. They're all companies that are really focused on creating content and almost like media machines in parallel to selling a product.
Got it. I have two more questions, and since we are running low on time, I would like to pick one question from our audience here. Digital Core is asking, any big changes in budget you experienced after AI tools? So I would like to reframe this question a bit as well, that how has AI coming in place, like the AI boom, affected budget, as well as some of the AI tools that you love and that you use in your day-to-day work life? Would love to know that.
I would say it hasn't changed in terms of budget. I mean, I guess is the question I'd further inquire, that do we have to spend more or less because of AI?
I guess maybe because I think in this context they are referring to, like, we have that whole there's a scare out there, that AI is cutting jobs, AI is replacing humans. So I think this is in that context, that have you seen budget cuts or AI replacing jobs at your workspace?
No, 1,000% no. And I don't speak for the company when I say this, but I don't think that humans cannot fully be replaced. There's layers that support us, that make it easier. I think it impacts certain functions more. But I personally am going to want a human being to be the final sign off of the content that we create and the final designer on the images we produce. So that's my personal belief, that it can be used to support our work. It can save us time. It can save a lot of time. But no to no impacts, and no to my own personal opinion.
Got it. And any AI tools that you love, would you like to mention any of the names that you prefer using every day that has made your life easier?
Um, Not really. I would say that I'm probably outing myself, but I'm not a huge user. Obviously ChatGPT is like great for answers when you need to do something, but I haven't been reprogrammed yet. I'm still programmed to use this first. However, I did ask my team this recently, and they're only really using it to help kind of help curate some copy, and for it, like as a preliminary step to do some copy setup, and then taking it from the human onward.
Got it. And my final question would be that as senior director of global demand generation, what advice would you give to marketers striving to create content that not only generates demand but also builds lasting relationship with customers?
I would say, as kind of I talked about before, to when it comes to creating great content, like use content that you can create 5-6 pieces out of a single action. In terms of creating lasting relationships, I think that right now humor is people are really resonating with humor in the space. I don't know if y'all are on LinkedIn, but there's a lot of funny marketers and influencers out there that are using humor because their job is hard and sometimes it sucks. And it gives us a moment of lightness to be able to learn while also laughing. So I'd say, that's a really great approach, but also, not being too serious. I think that it obviously depends on your buyer. Some buyers are less fun than marketers. Let's just say it. So know your audience, but if you can have fun, that's going to create that connection. So yeah, I really do think that in everything that we do, whether it's content or it's creating a structure of something, that we have to remember that we're all human first, and that we should try to deliver the kind of passion that we put into our work so that someone can receive it on the other side.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that we are all human first. And we're not robots. It's okay to use a humorous line, like while not offending your customer, but it's something that I as a customer have experienced when I receive mails with quirky subject lines or a quirky message.
It's my
There's so
favorite.
many brands. Yeah, there's so many brands out there, Buffer, Duolingo, and so many others who have adopted this strategy. So, right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amber. This was a very insightful session. And thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a good day. Any closing notes if you have?
No, thank you for having me. And yeah, I think just takeaways: be human first, because that's what we resonate with at the end of the day, right? It's what we remember.
Right. Awesome. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone who joined us from the US and from India as well. I know it's pretty late in India, but thank you everyone who joined. And we'll see you next week. We have a live session with Rand Fishkin, who's the CEO of Spark Toro and who's also the co founder of Moz. So, yeah, we'll see you then. And until then, keep creating good content and, yeah, share memories. Bye. Have a great day and have a great night from wherever you're watching.